Okay, now you have, as you noted, voted for some of President Trump's nominees in this process, and you were one of the only Democrats to vote for the Laken-Riley Act. We saw you as part of the signing ceremony for that with her family, with President Trump this week. Now, there's been some blowback from the left about voting for that act, about the ICE raids that are going on now across the country. I want to get your reaction to some local officials who say either they're not going to cooperate, they're going to actively block these, or in some cases, they're just going to give people advice on how to avoid the raids. Here are some local officials reacting in the last few days.
Our police officers will not be cooperating with federal law enforcement around federal immigration law.
Being a welcoming city just simply states that our local police department will not behave as federal agents.
We have a sanctuary ordinance, a state law, SB 54, that generally prohibits our police department from participating in immigration enforcement.
So what obligations do or don't you think local officials have with respect to the feds and these deportations?
I hope every local official would agree that anyone here, any of the migrants that are here with criminal backgrounds or engaging in criminal behavior, I think they should support that. Now, if ICE comes to round them up, I hope they would provide that kind of support. I certainly would never support terrorizing otherwise innocent migrants in those kinds of situations, or kicking in a door at a school. But I think we can all agree that every migrant here with a criminal background or engaging in criminal behavior should all needs to go.
Okay.
And joining us now is former Chicago top cop Eddie Johnson. Hey, I appreciate you so much for coming on tonight. And let's jump right in. Let's start with what that alderman Raymond Lopez was just saying about Mayor Brandon Johnson threatening to arrest ICE officers if they come. What do you make of that? How do you see that playing out?
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I don't see CPD officers arresting federal agents under any circumstances. I mean, they're here to do the job that they have to do. Now, you do know, because of our city welcome and city ordinance, CPD cannot assist federal agents in immigration raids or anything of that nature. However, I just don't really see CPD, although the mayor did say that, I don't see him using CPD to arrest federal agents. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And as you're alluding to, Chicago is a sanctuary city, and it does limit what Chicago police can and can't do involving undocumented migrants. Give us an idea of what Chicago police can do at this time, and in your opinion, should Chicago police help take criminal migrants off the streets?
So I'll answer the second question first. In my opinion, yes. If we have illegal migrants in the city of Chicago, they should be removed from the city. There's just no excuse for not taking criminals out of our city. Now, in terms of what the police can do, they're really handcuffed with this thing, because the ordinance explicitly states that they can't assist federal agents in any way. However, what they can do is, if the agents run into a problem and they need help, then the CPD officers can go help them just like they help any other citizen.
So help me understand this. For example, if Train de Aragua is operating in the city of Chicago, and there are concerned citizens who call in and say, we see these crimes taking place, we see the criminal activity happening, can officers step in and make those arrests, or is that stepping on the toes of ICE?
Oh yeah, so if they are committing criminal acts, and that gang is active in Chicago, they are here all over the city. And trust me when I tell you, CPD is arresting them for criminal behavior. So they will arrest them. It's just that they're not going to assist the federal agents. But make no mistake about it, if they commit crimes in the city of Chicago and the CPD officers are made aware of it, then they do take arrest actions against them.
We see Train de Aragua now active in all 50 states. How big of a problem is it in the sanctuary city of Chicago?
Well, they're here, and they haven't established a foothold. And some of the reason why is because, of course, the established gangs here just won't allow it at this point. But they are here and they're active, and they are on the south and west sides where we have the most activity in, the established gangs here. But they haven't caused significant issues, but CPD has arrested several of them for criminal activity.
Eddie Johnson, really appreciate the context and information, your perspective tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And I know that you have worked with families of victims killed by migrants in the country illegally. Two cases in particular I know are really staying on your heart, involving the torture and rape of two girls. Tell us more about these cases. What do we need to know?
You know, being a crime victim advocate, I'd like to focus primarily on children's cases because they're the most horrific. They're the most innocent element in our communities. I could not stay quiet when 2 little girls were tortured, raped, and brutally murdered here in our town. This is not who we are, and we are a community of migrants. But what the Biden and Harris administration did was let everybody in where people didn't even have to struggle to come across the border. At least now we see them trying to sneak in through different routes. Before, America was wide open to everybody. And it's just so sad that so many people alongside these 2 little girls had to pay the price here in Houston, all across the nation. And it's just unbelievable that a country can call itself a country without a border. I applaud what Donald Trump is doing because it's what needs to happen. We have always had a culture here in the United States of migrants living in the shadows. And there's a fine line between respect and fear. Now people know they have to come here and they have to respect our laws, whether they're here illegally or legally. They are being careful, and they're not going to so easily take advantage of our citizens and migrants alike.
I believe the 2 girls you're referring to are 11 and 12-year-old Maria Gonzalez and Jocelyn Nungary. And I know that you've said that criminal migrants are giving all migrants a bad name. Isn't it true that migrants are on the whole less likely to commit crimes in this country than Americans who are born here? I mean, do you believe that the undocumented population is also particularly vulnerable to the TDA gang and criminal migrants taking advantage and victimizing them?
Most people that advocate for everybody to come in here on the Democratic side have never lived a day in Mexico. These people are fleeing from horrible situations. So to allow everybody into this country is replicating the same environments that they're running away from. In Mexico, the numbers of homicides and missing women and girls are truly underreported. However, the numbers that do exist are astonishing. It is a culture where predators thrive. So people come here for a better life, and they are less likely to commit a crime than a U.S. citizen. But when you allow everybody in, and you send a message globally that America is not punishing criminals, you're going to get everybody in here, especially when you create incentives for people to live off of welfare as soon as they cross through the border, food stamps, housing, cell phones. I mean, come on, what type of migrants are we inviting into this country? I cannot remember the last time a little girl was identified and chosen to be killed by a non-migrant or migrant prior to this administration. Migrants have lived in Houston for years, and these type of heinous crimes were not happening because there was a fine line between fear and respect. They knew that there was consequences to actions. So these type of violent crimes were not happening. But these are the consequences of actions. I am grateful for Donald Trump, and guess what? We're just ending up back where we used to be. People used to live in the shadows, and they used to work and contribute to this country and respected laws, whether they wanted to or not, they did.
Meanwhile, President Trump says Venezuela has agreed to take back tens of thousands of Venezuelans who've committed crimes and are living in America illegally, including the dangerous gang Tren de Aragua, as Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and ICE and border officials continue to arrest and deport dangerous illegal criminals, migrants from the country. Joining me now in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is the U.S. border czar, Tom Homan. Tom Homan is in an undisclosed location right now as he begins another operation. Thanks very much for being here, Tom. Can you assess your work so far?
Well, look, I looked at the numbers this morning, Maria. The crossings on the border are down 93%. 93%.
Wow.
That's a bigger decrease than under the first Trump administration. So, look, I said it. President Trump is a game changer. No one has had the success he's had on securing the border. He clearly understands we can't have strong national security if we don't have border security. We need to know who's coming in, what's coming in, where it's coming in, why it's coming in. And we have achieved a success on the border already. We got more work to do. And on top of that, as far as the deportation operation, we're just shy of, I think we got 5,000 already arrested the first week, and majority of them being criminals. The non-criminals, and the media's talking about, oh, who are these non-criminals? The non-criminals are arrested in sanctuary cities because you force us into the community rather than arresting the bad guy in the jail. And when we find that criminal, he's most likely with others, and they're going to go too. So if you want to be a sanctuary city, you're going to get exactly what you don't want. More agents in the community and more non-criminals arrested.
Tom, I know that you met with Canadian officials on Friday as the tariffs were looming. The tariffs have, in fact, been announced and took effect yesterday. President Trump is expected to have a real effect on Tuesday of this upcoming week. Did you get a sense of what Canada is going to do to retaliate?
No, I didn't. I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that. I mean, I'll brief him on the meeting I had, but that's the president's decision. I don't want to get ahead of him on that, but I will brief him on what I heard, and so he knows what they have done, what they said they will do. But I'll leave that after a discussion with the president this week.
Tom, you've also said that you're going to start moving migrants, illegals in this country to Guantanamo Bay, hopefully within 30 days. What's the plan? Are they going to stay there until you can get them back to their home country?
Absolutely. Look, the worst of the worst need to go to Guantanamo Bay. And for those folks that don't know, we've had a migrant processing center there for decades. We don't use an awful lot. Usually it's the Coast Guard holding people from Haiti and Cuba that were, arrested, entered the country through the maritime. So we got a facility there. We're going to expand it a lot and hold the worst of the worst over there. I mean, it's the right thing to do. And the beds are much cheaper over there. So look, President Trump's about efficiency. It's about getting the bad guys out. This is one of many ideas we have, and we're going to put it in place.
Tom, you said that the crossings are down 93%. This is incredible. President Trump put these tariffs in place because of the flow of fentanyl. What can you tell us about that? Because the president has ordered 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports and 10% on goods from China because of their inability or unwillingness to stop the fentanyl from flowing into our country, killing 100,000 Americans every year.
Which is exactly why President Trump has designated the criminal cartels in Mexico as terrorist organizations. I've said from the RNC convention to the president, I said that the terrorists or these cartels have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. So President Trump took the right step. Look at these cartels. They've killed thousands of journalists, thousands of politicians, hundreds of judges, legislators. They're running the country of Mexico. So President Trump's making the right move by, number one, declaring a terrorist organization so the whole of government can attack them, not just in Mexico, but in 42 countries. The least cartels in 42 countries around the world now. They're in every major city of this country. They have set up shop. So President Trump's going to hold Mexico accountable. They haven't taken enough action against these cartels. They've been operating for decades in Mexico. They're operating freely. We know that. And look, I'm not going to say every official in Mexico is corrupt, but many are, and we simply know that. So he's going to hold Mexico accountable. They got to take action these cartels and stem the flow of fentanyl. Not only that, the sex trafficking of women and children across our border. It is illegal in the country of Mexico to sex traffic women and children, but they're not stopping it. It's illegal for anybody from around the world to transit through Mexico without a transit visa, but they're allowing it. So President Trump's exactly right on doing this.
Have you been able to bust into human trafficking operations that are operating in America right now? Because I know that the drug lords got people across, but then they created all these new businesses, drug trafficking and human trafficking businesses, and they've got headquarters in America.
I got to be careful. We're involved. Let me just leave it at that. A lot of this law enforcement sensitive, but we're aware of a lot of it. We're in the middle of some of it. And you're going to see some things happening in the near future on that.
Okay. And you are in an undisclosed location right now, beginning another operation. Tom, we're watching your work, and we appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Maria.